Hi beautiful people. So it has been so long, it feels like, since I made a video. Some of you are probably like, I forgot I was even subbed to this girl, but anyways, I'll watch this video because it's Christmas break probably for you. But yeah, no, I actually had been sick for a really long time and I didn't know what was going on. I had like really bad ab pain down here, like seriously, like all down my lower abs, and I kept losing my voice, and I'm a teacher, and so it was horrible. Like I literally was using a text-to-speech program at school because I didn't want to miss school, but I couldn't talk. My tonsils are huge for forever, and I went to the doctor so many times, and after the 4th visit to the doctor, I finally got diagnosed with mono, and it's made sense for all this time why I've been so sick and like what's been going on. And so yes, I've been finally just like resting and giving my body what it needs to just take time to do literally nothing but sleep. And so that's where I've been, and yeah, so that's that. Really quick, just wanted to say that that's where I've been. And yeah, in that time off, I had time to do like an Instagram Q&A type of thing because I was bored and I was like, I love you guys, I want to talk to you. So I answered some of your questions, and one of the questions that I got was like, literally this girl was like, hey, I just started dating someone, what's your advice for me? And I talked about how it's important not to just have and keep, you know, physical boundaries in relationships, but also spiritual and emotional. And I got so many DMs and comments and stuff after that, like, Becca, what the heck does that mean? Like, how do you have spiritual and emotional boundaries? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a video. So I finally had enough energy today to sit down and film this. And so I have everything ready, and yeah, it's ready to go. Here we go. It's exciting. So yeah, this is a topic that a lot of people don't talk about. That's why I am like really excited to be talking about this and have the energy to do this, because so many people just, when they talk about purity and sex and like wait until marriage, it's a smart, wise thing to do, like God wants you to wait until marriage, people only pretty much talk about the physical part of that, the physical part of purity, the physical part about guarding your heart. You probably know the verse in the Bible that says, guard your heart for it's the wellspring of life, which is a verse in Proverbs, which is great, but it's not just about physical stuff, and sex is not just a physical act with another person. God created sex to be something that's a emotional, spiritual, and physical thing, 3 things. And when you get married, that's something that God gave to people as a gift to have. And when you have sex, it's kind of like a symbolic way of like tying your souls together, coming together as one. But it's not just physically coming together as one, it's emotionally, spiritually tying your souls together as one. That's why it's so incredibly important that when you are dating someone, you guard your heart, because like if you're not married to another person, you are your own 2 separate people. God is working in this person's heart and your heart separately. He's doing different things, and if the time is right, if it's His will, He's gonna bring you together, right? And that's when you can tie yourselves together, literally bind your souls together with that person emotionally, physically, spiritually. But until that time comes, you are 2 separate people, and you have to guard your heart and be very careful and wise about the boundaries that you set in place for your heart. That was a lot. That was a lot. So I'm gonna break it down here. There are 3 different boundaries that I think it's wise to have in a relationship if you are just dating someone. Now, this doesn't mean that like, I don't want you to think about this in like a negative way. Like, you are not gonna get married to this person, you're 16 or however old you are. You shouldn't even like think you're gonna marry this person. Just, you're gonna break up. Go in this with a mindset of you're gonna break up. That's why you need to have these boundaries. That's not what I'm saying at all. My parents met, my mom was 15, my dad was 17, and they've been married for 30 plus years, okay? So you can meet your spouse when you are young. I don't want you to go into a relationship when you're young thinking, well, this is just like a test run and it doesn't matter and we're gonna break up anyway, that's why we have these boundaries. No, you have these boundaries because you could marry this person, but until that time comes, you need to guard yourself, guard your heart, physically, spiritually, emotionally, until that time, that right season, like the Bible teaches, comes. So I'm gonna be talking about what I do in my relationship with my boyfriend, Zach. We have tried our hardest to like be wise in these 3 areas, not just, you know, we're only doing this before marriage physically. It's like we've also like sat down and talked about, okay, what emotional and spiritual boundaries should we set up as well? Again, not because we think we're gonna break up and this is why we need to do it, but because we want to protect the other person's heart and our own heart, just like the Bible teaches, until the time is right for us to come together, right? If that's God's will. So yeah, I just wanna say that these are gonna be things for me that we do in my relationship, but like everyone is different. They're not gonna look the same for everyone. Your emotional boundaries might be different than mine, or your spiritual boundaries might be different than mine. I don't want to become like a legalistic thing where it has to be this. This is my thing that I've decided and I felt is the wisest for us. But like it could change, it could be different for you because we're different people. And so I don't want this to be like you have to do this, but this is what I do in my relationship. And so you can take it and think on it, pray on it, and figure it out for yourself. You have to do that on your own, okay? So yeah, just saying. All right, so the first out of the three I'm gonna be talking about is physical, and this is gonna be super quick because you didn't come to hear the physical stuff, you came to hear about the other two because those are the ones that don't get talked about as often. So super duper quick, I'm just gonna skim over this. I've done other videos on purity if you wanna go check those out. I'll link all the things below where I've talked about sex and stuff before. Anyway, farthest I'm going with Zach, farthest we both knew this by the way before we started dating each other, and if it had been different for him, if he had been planning on going farther, I would have said nope, see ya, we're not dating, right? Like that might sound harsh, but that's how it is for me. So yeah, the farthest that we are both planning on going before marriage is kissing. That is it, and that is what we have decided is the wisest for us until we get married. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Like I said, the other videos will be linked below for you. So yeah. So the next one I want to talk about is emotional. And this, again, I don't want it to be like a legalistic thing where if you've done this before, you're a horrible person and this is the way God wants it for sure. Like, this is what I've decided for myself. The end, okay? Zach and I don't ever talk about like our future together. We don't talk about our kids' names that we're gonna, name our children, right? One day. That is something in my heart, like I've thought about, right? I've thought about where I wanna get married, and I've thought about when I wanna get married and like what it's gonna look like at my wedding day and different things in my future in terms of my wedding or like future with family and different things like that. I don't talk about that with Zach because I feel like that is something that like those are my desires, those are my dreams and my goals or whatever it is with family, and that stuff. That is something that's in the future that is mine right now, and that is not something that I need to share with Zach right now. And it's come up before we've started to talk about it, and it's been a thing where we've kind of like when you go too far physically or like you're about to go and you have to say, whoa, we need to stop, we need to tap out right here, right now. We've had to kind of do that. And it's not like a, oh my gosh, Zach, what are you doing? Or like a freak out thing, right? It's just kind of like, we need to stop. And this is something that emotionally, like we need to guard our hearts against for right now because we're not married to each other. And one day if Zach and I do get engaged, then that is something that we can talk about, right? Like there is a time for it and a place for it. And I just think for right now, like that's something that we've both decided. He's not here, but he's right there in the picture. We've decided between the two of us is the wisest thing. So in terms of like the future, we don't share that kind of thing. And I kind of like to think of it like physical stuff. Like when I share my heart with Zach, that is an intimate thing. That's when I emotionally share parts of things that I desire in my future and whatnot. I'm giving part of my heart away to him. That's an emotional, intimate thing. And so that's what the Bible says, like guard your heart against that. You need to be careful that you're not giving too much of yourself emotionally to another person until the time is right. So that's one thing emotionally I would say. I'm trying to think of another example of something that we've said. I guess just something, and this is gonna be super ambiguous and people aren't gonna like that, but like there are certain things that I don't need to tell Zach. And it's kind of on the same line, but there are some things that right now I should just talk to my mom about, or I should just talk to my best girlfriend about, like in terms of things emotionally that I maybe struggle with, that it's something that needs to be like girl to girl kind of thing, because Zach and I are not married. We're not, soul tied partners yet. That's something that I go to my mom about or my best friend about who's a girl. They're just things that I think it's wise to go to another girl about. And one day when you're married, it would make sense to go to your partner for that. But for right now, and I know that's super broad because I'm not giving specific examples, but I feel like you just know what I'm talking about. So like, yeah, that's something you gotta be careful about too, is not going to them about every single thing. Like Zach and I talk about so much, and communication is incredibly important, but like we don't share absolutely everything. So that's something to just be careful about. All right, the last one is spiritually. And this is one that I feel like people might get upset at me about because they won't agree. And that's okay if you don't agree with me. This is, again, my take on this. So spiritually, we do not do like one-on-one Bible studies, me and Zach together. We don't study like the book of Hebrews together one-on-one in a coffee shop. And the reason why we don't do that is because when you study something like the Word of God, which is so like incredibly important in your life, is literally founded on this book, and you study it together, that is an incredibly intimate thing to do because it's such a, like literally, like the Bible overflows into every area of your life. And so when you study it with one other person, you become very connected to them spiritually and emotionally. That's a lot of different things. And you can really say physically too, because if you're together close like that in the coffee shop, maybe holding hands, it's like, it's all very connected, and you have to be very careful not to do that when it's not the right time or context, because studying the Bible is a beautiful thing and it's not a bad thing. I don't want you to think like, oh my gosh, like, is it bad that I've been doing that? I don't want to make you feel badly if you've been doing that, but you have to be very careful because it's such an intimate thing to do with another person. For Zach and I, like over the summer, he was in a guy's Bible study and I was in a girl's Bible study through our church, and it was awesome. Like literally at the same house, the guys went to one part of it and the girls went to the other part, and we were all studying different books of the Bible, but like with like different groups like that, and it was great. And like he was growing spiritually, I was growing spiritually, and like with people who are our same gender and like people who are pushing us and whatever, it's all great, but like we weren't doing it together. And I think that's important, like I said, because you have to be careful about mixing that stuff together. And I don't mean to make it about the negative thing, like, oh, you could break up, but like it is very, very hard when you have tied your soul like together with someone and studying the Bible in depth with one other person of the opposite gender. Like it's very hard when you break up to break that bond and break that just spiritual intimacy that you guys had together. I've seen it with friends of mine and who have like done tons of Bible studies together and broken up and different things. And for me, like in little ways, I had little spiritual bonds with people that I didn't guard my heart enough against, I would say. If that makes sense. I've just seen it in my own life, and especially in some of my best friends' lives who have broken up with people. So be very careful about studying the Bible together and praying together all the time. I don't think it's bad to like pray before meals. Zach and I do that, but like don't, make sure you're not just praying with that person. Only, that's the only time. The thing about Zach that I love is just one of the many things is he always says, Becca, like you better be praying for me as much as I'm praying for you. Like he kind of says it like jokingly, like you better be praying, right? But like he prays for me all the time. And like, I don't even know how much, but like that's part of the beauty of it. Like he has his own thing going with God and I have my own thing going with God. And like I pray for him every single day. And really like, if you love someone and you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you should be on your knees in prayer for them every single day. Like that is incredibly important to do that. And that's what we do. We have our own separate relationships right now with the Lord. And if it's his will, one day we will come together and emotionally, physically, spiritually come together, tie our souls together, and it'll be awesome. But for right now, we have those kind of separate. So yeah, like I said, we do pray at meals, and like he prayed for me before we knew what was wrong with my abs. Like he prayed over that, and we went up and got prayer together and different things. But like, I don't know, it's just important to be careful not to do everything just you two together one-on-one. Have your separate things. Have your relationships with God separate, because people who are dating and not married were not created to do everything together intimately. We were created to come together with people, right, in the right time, in the right context, but it's when it's the right time. That's what's important. So I was definitely rambling in this video, but I really pray that this video helps you. I was literally on my knees before I started recording this in prayer. I was just like, God, even if I mess up and ramble, Lord, you just do your thing to the people who are watching. So seriously, I love you, and I say this because I love you that much, and I just want to do what, seriously, as cheesy as that sounds, like I just want to reflect God in my relationship with Zach, and I want you to do the same thing. If you are chasing after the Lord too, I want you to do that too. And that's why I make this, not to make it seem like I know everything and I, have my perfect relationship with Zach. Like I don't, and we are two imperfect people, and I just want to help and encourage you, or I don't know, I'm rambling now, but I do love you, and I promise this comes from a good place in my heart. So I hope that shows. And yeah, if you have any questions or any more input, definitely let me know below. I love reading the comments from you guys, and I love to hear what your thoughts are about maybe what you do physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever, in your relationships, because I'm growing and learning too. So let me know what you think. I love you, and I hope you have a great day, and know that you are so loved and so beautiful.
Wake up this morning, need a new dose of truth. Yesterday my cup was full, then it leaked all on the floor. Before I could sip it, I slipped and I broke my head. Cracked my skull open, saw my thoughts rolling. Say my prayers, dog, word to Hulk Hogan. Thought you straight edge, now they all smoking.